We can start. So 18, no, so what did I say? 16, 15 minutes each? Yep.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm Giovanni Primativo, and today I'm going to present this paper written by Bracco, De Paola, and other authors. The effect of far right parties on the education choice of immigrants. Evidence from legal non-layers. This is the agenda I'm going to follow. First of all, I will introduce the topics. Secondly, I will talk about data involved. Next, I will talk about methodological approach used by the authors. And finally, I will draw the main conclusions reached by the authors. Let's get started with the introduction. What this paper talks about is to study, is to look if there is any relation between, if there is any causal effect between far-right parties and immigrants' location behavior, immigrants' location choice. In doing so, authors try to estimate if there is any effect of electing a Lega Nord mayor into the municipality, into the inflows and outflows of immigrants using a regression discontinuity design. It's going to be clear later on. Main result the authors reached is that there is a clear negative relation between a Lega Nord victory, between a Lega Nord mayor, and the location choice of immigrants. It's quite interesting to have a look at the previous literature, because previous literature treated our dependent variable, that is location choice of immigrant, as a factor to control flow, because the research object of the previous literature wasn't the location behavior of immigrants, but it was how location behavior of immigrants affect voting pattern in a particular municipality. So it was a variable that was considered as a nuisance factor. There are three sources of data that have been used to do this work. The first one is an administrative panel data from 2002 to 2014. It contains information on resident foreigners in each Italian municipality. Second one is an electoral panel data, and it has the number of votes obtained by each parties into the municipality election. And the third one is a geographic and economic data for each municipality. It's quite interesting to look at margin victory variable. That is a variable that tells what is the percentage, what has been the percentage of victory into a particular municipality, and this variable has been rescaled in order to have, for positive values, a Lega Nord victory, while for negative values, a Lega Nord fix. This is our model specification. On the left side, we have our dependent variable. That is it could be a measure of immigrants into the municipality at time lowercase t in a municipality I. And the authors really used a net immigrant flow for this purpose. On the right side, we have a dummy variable, Lega Nord mayor. And this is a value that has value 1 if there was a Lega Nord mayor into municipality I at time uppercase t. And there is our margin of victory variable that has been rescaled. That's in literature is called the forcing variable. And authors allow for this variable linear and quadratic form, and there is an interaction too between forcing variable, margin of victory, and the Lega Nord variable. And there are other variables such as xi at time t minus 1 held constant the previous year election in order to avoid reverse causality issues. And it's a vector of municipality characteristics. And there is another variable, it's a provincial fixed effect, and it's the error component term, delta t and epsilon it, that from this term it could arise some empirical issue. And some of them could be a reverse causality effect of prior immigrants into the voting pattern in that particular municipality. And in a certain way, it was the research object of the previous literature. Second one, it could be that location decision of immigrants are a function, could be a function of the presence of immigrants into the municipality. The third one is that for sure there are some unobserved local and economic characteristics that affect location behavior, and this problem creates some challenging on how to simply isolate the Leganov effect on location choice of immigrants. So they tried to solve this kind of problem using a regression discontinuity design. Regression discontinuity design has a pivotal assumption that is tiny above and tiny below a certain threshold. In our case, the threshold is when margin of victory assumes value of 0. Tiny above and tiny below of this cutoff, all the potential factors that in a certain way could affect location, could attract immigrants and could not attract immigrants. On that cutoff value, we can say that all these potential confounders are smooth. And so this allow the authors to local consistency estimate an average treatment effect. Since if this assumption is true, if this assumption is true, you can consider Leganov victory as a randomized variable on the age of the cutoff. For sure, the question could be how close is close from the cutoff? How far can I go? And at the same time assess that our estimates are still consistently, because there is a trade-off between bias and variance. And so this is the reason why it's possible to use this approach, because you can see that when margin of victory value is equal to 1, there is a discontinuity, there is a big difference between the right part of this image and the left part of this graph. You can see that there is a jump, and this is the reason why it's possible to use this approach. So finally, we can draw the main result from this paper. The first one is that the narrow victory of Leganov substantially reduced the net immigration flow into the municipality, and these estimates range between 0.06 and 0.08. And another time, the main concern is to what extent it's possible to generalize these results, since these are estimates from a local average treatment expected. This is the regression framework. The first line is the Leganov major parameter, and you can see that no matter the econometric tools used, they are negative and consistency estimates, and they range between 0.06 and 0.08. Now I'm going to disentangle the effect that the previous effect that I have shown. And for example, who decided to move? And it came out that the net immigrant reduction is driven by a fall on inflows, on the amount of inflows into the municipality. And this is explained by the fact that if you are a migrant and you are looking for a place to live, you might avoid those municipalities where you feel you would be considered as unwelcoming. And the reason why outflows is not consistently could be explained by the moving cost of moving. So this is the general net immigration flow. This one is a regression where dependent variable is immigration inflows and immigration outflows. You can see that there is a negative parameter there and a significant under immigration inflows, while on the right side we have the immigration outflows that is close to zero and at the same time not significant. Another question could be when immigrants decide to move, and immigrants at the end decide to move the year after the election. And this result has been computed by subdividing the data according to their distance from the last election here, uppercase T. So they build a lag variable. This is another time regression framework, and in the underleg lag lower or equal to 1, there is a negative and consistently effect. And this effect tends to become lower as time goes by, and at the same time not consistently. This is a very important question to answer, because why do immigrants decide to move? Is it because Lega Nord itself, or is it because anti-immigrant stances of Lega Nord? Well, they try to run a regression from 1991 using data from 1991 to 2001, a period where Lega Nord's main issue were not property and anti-immigrants one. They were concerned about federalism, they were concerned about freedom of Padania, and so into this period they noticed that there wasn't any kind of relation between the Lega Nord victory in a given province and the presence of foreign people in that province. Why? At the same time, they have done the same model for the period from 2001 and 2014, where Lega Nord stances turned out to be anti-immigrant one, and as is clear from this regression, the right side is the parameter from 2002-2014, a period where Lega Nord stances became very, very anti-immigrant one, and there is a negative correlation, while on the left side you can say the same. So finally, narrow victory of Lega Nord has a clear negative effect on location choice, on location behavior of immigrant inflows, and this effect is tends to decrease with the time, as time goes by. And it is quite an ongoing issue, because nowadays anti-immigrant stances that explain this behavior and Lega Nord too are becoming very, very popular in Europe. Thanks you for your attention.
Thank you very much. So, are there any questions? I'm going to ask a question. Did they? I haven't, liked the paper, either way presented, understood something. Did they try any distinction between different types of immigrants?
Yeah, they've done it. They tried to disentangle between those immigrants that came from, for example,
Africa,
outside Italy,
yeah,
and those immigrants that came from, for example, other places in Italy.
right.
I do not include this because their results weren't, according to me, not so interesting. So I decided to rule out them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Very good. We'll stop.